city attorney and just stand wherever I want.
Whatever comes you on.
He used to stand in the back.
Mr. Attorney, did you ever let people have up to 5 minutes, tell us something about yourself and why you're interested in the school board?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, I love Hoover, love the city, love the people, love the kids. We moved up here in '93, so I've been here 20 years. My wife worked for the city of Hoover. Yeah, she helped substitute teach at Bluff Park Elementary School. I've always loved it, tried to be involved in the community through various boards, through everything from commerce, zoning justice board, etc. We've always loved the city and everything that we do is kind of great to see. Love the kids, love the education. Picked Bluff Park Elementary school district zone because we love that elementary school. And when it came after we outgrew our house 8 years later, we still love to stay in that zone because we just love that school and love being involved in the community.
Mr. Light, I think you're first up. All right, Mr. Attorney, thank you for being here and thank you for your interest in serving. We really collectively appreciate that very much. My level of questioning has been pretty much centered on finances. Obviously, it's been a hot topic in Hoover City Schools, so I'd like to know your perspective on what the current state of finances are in the city school system, and kind of where you see that going in the next 3 years or so.
Yeah, well, it's very, very concerning. What I know is what I read. I did take some time to look over, some of the recent Hoover School Board minutes. So I could be more, prepared on the situation. Looked at some of their financial statements and statements of revenue collected and expenses paid, and but it's very concerning to have a revenue of 150 million. You all know I'm preaching to the choir. 150 million and expenses of 167 million, and having a deficit of 17 million for the upcoming, for this current term. That's very concerning, especially with Mr. Craig stating, we have about 94 million in the bank, and so we're looking at 3.5 years, according to him, of operating that deficit, and it's always tough to make cuts or to try to find increases in revenue. I know they're trying to do that, so it's going to be a tough time for the current board and whoever you select to be on the board. But I'm here to serve, kind of like my one thing I didn't mention. I'm very involved in Hoover Rotary Club and been over there for over 15 years. And one of our mottos is service above self, and that's why I'm here tonight to offer my service if y'all require it. I've got a background in the legal world as well as accounting. Accounting degree from Florida State University. I work with budgets of over 20 million and handle the assets of over $1 billion for Dow Corning. So I have some background in that as well as management, and think that my not only legal perspective but the accounting management side would be a benefit to the current board.
Anything else, Mr. Light? No, sir. Mr. Scott?
Thank you again, Mr. Turner, for coming in. We won't hold the Florida State thing against you. Just want to know that. In your answers to the application, one of the questions, you talk about you want to create school board liaisons with the parent-teacher organizations. And explain to me what you mean by that and exactly what your intentions are with that.
Well, at Brandon, they have a committee, community committee board, or I guess just a community committee that the board has created, and I don't know how long that's been around.
It's the presidents of all the leadership of the PTA, PTO.
Right. I think that's a wonderful idea, but that's sort of the goal. I think of course it's a team effort. It's got to be a joint effort. Because as we saw with the bus situation, which was unfortunate. Hindsight's 20/20, but it's good to get everybody on board, be more involved, whether it's school board. And I don't know everything they do, the current school board, but to involve the community, involve the teachers, because that's another thing too. A lot of times the teachers aren't even aware of everything that's going on. But to have some public presentations, discussions, make sure to involve everybody, whether or not it's going to make any pull on their final decision. Involve them, because a lot of times, as you know, some people have a lot
schedule and from a policy standpoint, get it going.
Right, I agree. I think some of the board will have to work together, and it would have to be a joint effort, and then Mr. Craig and the board would have to agree on these are the efforts, just like you said, this is the policy, these are the procedures we're gonna have in place to try to implement this community-based, knowledge, if you will, try to share what our plans are, what our goals are, and try to get that out.
Okay, thank you.
Adam? Terry, thank you for being here. Jim and I know each other just from the legal community.
Yes, sir.
It's great for you to be here. Thank you very much for your service to our community and everything. What do you see as the vision? You've been on the Aldridge Gardens as a board member and also as council. How do you see that parlaying into the school board from a financial standpoint and also from a visionary standpoint?
Well, my term, that's one thing that I thought about as well as part of my decision for offering to serve on the school board is my term on the Aldridge Gardens board ends in September. And when some of my friends started, encouraging me, saying, hey, I think your background would be perfect for, applying for the school board. That's one thing I did look into is that term is ending and how else could I help the community? And I thought with the Hoover School Board slot position, I go ahead and offer that and use, my efforts and my background, my skills, in the legal and accounting and management, et cetera, whatever skills that I have to offer. And from having 3 kids and, 3 different school, I got one high school, middle school, and elementary right now, and to share that and to use that for the benefit of the city I love and for the school system, best interest of the kids.
Thank you.
Mr. Gray?
Couple questions for you. First time, it's a considerable time commitment. Do you feel like you have time in your life now?
I do. My kids are getting older. In fact, I don't travel much with my legal practice. We're right down 31 here over at Parkway in Hoover. Most of my work is behind the desk, a transactional lawyer, not a litigator. I've had a few litigation cases here and there. So I don't travel much, so I'm in town. And with my kids getting older, I'm gonna miss that. But I do have more time on my hands, and my wife gave me seal approval, so I'm okay.
What goals do you hope to achieve if you are selected to serve on the board? Have you thought about any goals that you'd like to achieve?
My main focus was the finances, to try to help the current board. I know it's tough, and try to help them analyze, what's going on, what needs to be done. We all know it's a tough economy, and everybody's revenues are hurting, and hopefully the economy's picking up. But I think most of us agree, not like the federal government can't keep printing paper, just keep spending. It's tough to make cuts. We want what's best for our kids, no doubt about that, and we got to make the best decision for them, for the best education. Keep Hoover top, not lose teachers to the Mountain Brook and the stadium, keep them here. And I think that's what we need to do, focus on those finances and get the most bang for our buck.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I'm just gonna go on record saying that Terry and I have known each other for quite a while, both attending Bluff Park United Methodist Church. You know that your friends aren't gonna be your friends anymore if you get this.
That's the downside to it.
Mr. Craig continues to offer deficit spending budgets, and he seems to continue to receive almost unanimous approval from the current board. At what point do you think that you wait till
still running a $17 million deficit, that's clear.
You say we'd be in good shape, I'm just saying all the possible scenarios.
He could spend all the money and leave.
Well, that's basically the gist of my comment. Any additional questions from the
Mr. President,
council?
I guess, Terry, is there anything that you expected to have been asked that wasn't, that you'd like to bring up?
No, I think I covered everything.
Any closing comments you'd like to make, Terry?
I just appreciate it, all of y'all, and I know, y'all spend a lot of time interviewing everybody, and it looks like y'all have a lot of good candidates to consider. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Marjorie, you want to dive into some of that?
I'm gonna see who's after.
I expected, so. Mr. Singer?
We'd like you to make up to a 5-minute introduction on who you are and why you're interested in being on the school board, if you would, please.
Email that to him.
I'm not that long into, thank goodness. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be interviewed for the school board vacancy at the Hoover City Schools. My name is Arnold Singer. My wife and I own a condominium at the Overlook on River Haven. Prior to moving to Hoover over 6 years ago, we visited Hoover 2 or 3 times a year for about 15 years to visit our daughter and her family. We chose to retire to Hoover because we really liked Hoover. There is government and there is the business of government. The government of the city of Hoover provides a broad range of outstanding services. The business of government in the city of Hoover is also outstanding. When the recession struck in 2008, the mayor and council chose to cut back on spending from the previously approved budget. Hoover City Schools is the government agency charged with educating our children and grandchildren. Hoover City Schools has a proven record of providing excellent education to its students, to its teachers and administrators. The weak link for the Hoover City Schools is found in the almost annual budget deficits presented to and approved by the 5-member Board of Education. My interest is seeking the appointment to the Hoover City School Board is to ensure that a viable and outstanding school system will thrive in the decades to come.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Mr. Singer, I know that you have attended at least half a dozen school board meetings. What is your opinion of the leadership of the school system right now?
As I said in my opening remarks, they do a fabulous job of educating our children at the level of the teachers and the administrators. And that was perhaps best illustrated not in a teaching situation, but in a learning situation. With the ice storms that we had just recently, where the teachers showed, and principals and administrators showed the dedication to their students.
I guess the leadership question is a little bit further up the ladder.
Well,
And I'm pushing because I'm very limited on time.
the reason that I said before was any deficiency exists in the area of budget control, okay?
I know that
As a
you-
matter of fact, 6 years ago, in August of 2008, I was at a budget hearing, and you were in attendance at that meeting, and it was a very, very significant deficit that was being proposed. I asked the question, don't you use encumbrance accounting? And the response from Mrs. Ante was, No, we don't. The budget is merely a planning document. Government budgets should be much more rigorous than a planning document.
And just for the sake of time, with the amount of time that you've put into budget research and things like that, as a board member, where do you think, everybody's gonna have the sacred cow, but where do you think in this $17 million deficit, where's the first pain need to be felt?
The first pain needs to be felt in areas that do not affect teaching in any way, shape, or form. That should be the last area. I was part of a group of people that put in over 200 hours of research to identify various areas of school expenditures. An example would be, when was the last time that we put our insurance out for bid? That's not a small item. Have we taken a look at getting electricity the same way that Alabama Power gets electricity increasingly, and that is through natural gas to turn and create electrical energy. So those would be areas that we looked at. There are many other areas, but you work through those areas that don't affect the teaching environment first, and there are many, many others.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Just following up with the areas that you mentioned that don't affect the teaching environment, could you give me an example of some of those and an amount that you think might be saved if these were implemented?
But I mentioned power, insurance as examples, but if we get into the co-curricular activities, whether it be coaching an academic team or band or athletics, okay, we're one of only 2 school districts in the entire state of Alabama that has supplements for the teachers on a percentage basis. That's ourselves and Enterprise Alabama. These range as high as just short of 20% of salary. And so if you had 2 teachers, both with 2 years' experience, let's say one at Hoover High School, one at Spain Park, with a particular club or co-curricular activity, but one has a master's degree and has been teaching for 14 years, and the other one has been teaching for 3 years, they will be compensated quite differently. Now, previously, a number of years back, we did have flat amounts that were paid as supplements. We're looking at approximately $5 million worth of supplements. You don't have to shave much to start achieving 6 and possibly 7-digit savings.
Admiral?
Ron, thank you for being here. Thank you very much for your interest in all aspects of the city of Hoover, seeing you at many meetings. Commend you for doing that. What do you consider as your number one responsibility if in fact you become a board member?
As I close my comment, my opening comment, my interest in seeking appointment to the Hoover City School Board is to ensure a viable and outstanding school system that will thrive in decades ahead.
How are you going to do that?
By coming up with a review of the budget items with a very open mind. There will be someone or some group protecting each area that's being looked at, okay? That's where many of them will need some haircut. Some of them are just barely existing as they are, and, it would be dangerous to cut those.
Mr. Singer, there's $17 million, looking at your numbers here. There's $17 million deficit, 12 million from operations, 5 million from capital improvement. Now, the 5 million from capital improvements is actually not a deficit because you have $95 million offsetting the capital account. Should also have a credit balance of the interest earned on the $95 million reserves, which I would anticipate would at least be $500,000 to $1 million. So the number, they're saying 5 million, whether that number is 4.2 or 4.5, don't have the numbers to clarify. But the real problem is the $12 million in the operational budget. If you have $5 million decrease in the capital budget, that's really not a problem, because that's what the money's there for, is capital. The $12 million in the operational side of the budget is crisis. It's $1 million a month they're spending more than they're taking in. In the report that you did, and you know 200 hours of study here, how much would the $12 million decrease on the numbers you worked on?
Frankly, I don't know. Because we were not privy to the detailed information behind the numbers. This is the best we were able to get from various public documents. Okay.
And not aimed at you, but the real problem is the schools need to cut $1 million a month out of their $1 million a month in revenue, or some combination of all the above. The property tax they've generated and they've voted on by the citizenry would generate approximately $2 million to $3 million max if approved by the citizens. That's not a legislative function that the council could do single-handedly. But I appreciate all your study and your efforts on that. Mr. Skelton.
Thank you, Mr. Singer, for coming in. I want you to know I did read your application in detail, and I appreciate all the answers. You spent a lot of time on it. My question has to do with policy and procedural things, really, as we're familiar with the way we do it, versus it's my understanding that the Hoover City Schools do not disclose a lot of things about bids, whether it be the name of the vendor bidding and what the bid process is, what the item they're bidding on and the amount, and who eventually is awarded the bid. Now, during the break, I was challenged on that a little bit, so I'm unsure as to exactly how it is. But my question to you, if that is the case, and the board does not reveal and disclose the information, the basic information about the bids and the bid process, what would be your justification to accept that recommendation that it be, not disclosed and just kind of voted on pretty quick as, the bids are awarded?
I've been attending council meetings for 6 years. In all that time, only once did the attorney for the council and the city issue a caution about a particular action that was being considered. Okay. And there was a legal argument given for it. Whether one agrees with it or not, there wasn't a basis for it. A couple of meetings ago, the attorney for the school board basically said, don't answer any questions from the public. After the meeting, if they come up to you, you could answer them one-on-one, or, think it over for a month before you answer.
Is this related to bids?
It was just before the 2 bids that we knew nothing about.
Okay.
Okay? He started off that meeting that way. Okay? Now, advice from the attorney is advice. Okay? And you're supposed to take that quite seriously. But as an individual, you have to weigh that advice versus what you know in your heart is correct. And certainly, as you saw in my response, that was looking at the area of outreach to the public. How could you have outreach when you've got a guardian at the gate preventing that kind of outreach? And so, members of the board have undergone training, mandatory training. They should know what they can say and not say.
You say cutting legal fees would be a good idea? Cutting legal fees would be a good idea?
It's another area to be looked at.
Well,
Yeah.
especially the way,
We need lawyers.
you do need lawyers, and with our experience,
I'm a better
you know, as a public official, I certainly understand, you know, when you do get legal advice from the attorney you're paying, you know, you have a certain obligation to take that legal advice. If not, you expose your organization and maybe yourself to needless litigation. So, yeah, sometimes you gotta question I guess, the
But you see that-
sincerity of.
But you see, there was no legal basis given. It was just, don't communicate.
Well, that's my interest. That's what I'm trying to find out.
That's
What
I-
reason would there be to not disclose certain information? Why would you, if that was the recommendation from the superintendent, let's just award these bids without putting any information out there to the public? Why would you think that might be a good thing if you did?
Now, actually, at the last meeting, which was the meeting after that had happened, two of the members of the school board did provide various questions and answers with regard to what was being bid. Again, they received the same thing the month before. They thought it over, and they said, no, there's nothing that we're hiding here.
Did they
This
get answers?
They got answers.
Did
and
you
they
get
wound up-
answers?
And they wound up approving the bid.
Okay.
Okay, after they got answers.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of time, I'll pass on.
You fast?
No, go ahead. Okay.
Mr. Singer, few people are as engaged in city life and government as you are, so thank you very much for that. I'm going to be a little bit more direct with where I think Mr. Smith is going with his question. If my memory serves correct, you stood in front of Mr. Craig and called for his resignation at a board meeting. So let me ask you, is that indicative of where you think the leadership is for the Hoover Board of Education? Do you still feel that's appropriate?
No, I don't. And as a matter of fact, I also stood before this body and asked about increasing taxes. But once I started digging into knowing things, learning about the lid bill and the limitations of the lid bill, and understanding what was happening, the idea was not to go to the public and say, give us more money to spend the way we have been spending, okay? There are savings to be made within the business of education in the Hoover City Schools.
So are you still looking for him to resign, I guess?
No, no.
It's kind of important, because as a board member, you're kind of charged with, number one, hiring, firing, and evaluating the superintendent.
I started off with a clean slate. It's just like when, I'm married 50 years to the same woman. And we've had our ups and downs, we've had our arguments. But we always wipe the slate clean and start off fresh. And you know me perhaps better than most. That's the kind of person I am.
Do I have time to follow that one up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Singer, let's say when you did make a public request that Mr. Craig resign, and let's say the board, supported that, and Mr. Craig did resign, that's a serious matter, not only from a personal standpoint, but the leadership and direction of our entire school system. How would you feel now if that had happened and you no longer think he should resign? I mean, would you feel some kind of overwhelming responsibility for making that kind of a bad decision if it was bad? How can you change dramatically positions on one's employment and leadership over a certain period of time? A short period of time.
I don't have a can say is, I start off with a clean slate. I am pro everything until proven otherwise.
Apple Nether?
Mr. Singer, I'd like to follow up on what Mr. Skelton asked you. That gives me some concern. Why did you shoot from the hip at that time and now regret it? If you shot from the hip?
Again, I don't have a clear answer to that.
Would it have been because
What-
it was
what-
popular at the time?
Okay. Once I was wrong, but I was mistaken. I did a less than honorable statement at that time. And,
What I'm getting at is back to your thinking. What went through your mind? Why did you ask for that
well,
resignation?
I asked for that, not just as, I offered 3: resignation, retirement, or sabbatical. Okay.
That's what you did, but again, why?
I guess I'd have to be put under hypnosis to be able to figure out why I said that, other than that's, the actions that were happening or not happening is what hit me that way.
Okay. Do you have any closing comments or anything we didn't ask you'd like to say, Mr. Singer, in closing remarks?
I truly would be honored to be able to be appointed to the Hoover School Board. I think I represent, other than the outburst that I did have that one time, a mature, seasoned viewpoint of education, a love of education, a love of the city of Hoover, and wanting to see things continue to be a great school system that will not run out of money.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Captain.
Welcome. How you doing, Ms. Peters?
Just fine. Please excuse me for coming in
It was
earlier.
our fault. We understand you got locked out of the,
That's okay.
we apologize. If you would, you have up to 5 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in being on the school board.
Sure. My name is Kate Watley Peters. I've lived in Hoover for a little over 3 years now. I was born in Shelby County and went to Auburn, moved away for a while, and then came back to the Birmingham area in 2008. I started looking for a home and got stuck on Bluff Park in Hoover because of the quality of the educational system, a lot of the amenities here, and a central location. So I have a lot of family that lives in Hoover. My nephews are the 3rd generation to go to Bluff Park Elementary. They really enjoyed growing up here, as did my brother-in-law and his parents, and actually grandparents too. Right now I work at United Way of Central Alabama. I'm the Vice President of the Community Impact Department for Health. Before that, I was the Director of Healthy Kids, Healthy Communities of Jefferson County. So for Healthy Kids, Healthy Communities, that was a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation initiative, really focused on improving access to nutritious foods and healthy environments for children. In that capacity, I did a lot of work with school districts in Jefferson County, specifically on their wellness policies. We had a wellness policy enhancement project, and around Safe Routes to School. So Safe Routes to School is an initiative to encourage children that live within a walkable distance to walk or bike to school to get extra physical activity. It's also focused on looking at the built environment around schools. Are they accessible In my role in the Community Impact Department, I'm tasked with forming a regional collaborative to improve health outcomes within the 5 counties. So that involves convening a number of partners through the Jefferson County Health Action Partnership or just other United Way agencies to set bold goals for the region and work together to set metrics, how to achieve those goals, set timelines. It also involves a lot of communicating with partners that often come from diverse fields. That could be grassroots nonprofits, local governments. So my job right now is to convene those partners and ask them to focus on one goal and try and work towards achieving that. I'm also, like I said, a part of the Jefferson County Health Action Partnership. I'm on the City of Birmingham Implementation Committee for their new comprehensive plan. So that is going to be focusing on how can we take this plan for development for the next 20 years and really boil it down into a way that it's successfully implemented throughout the city. And then I'm also on the Active Transportation Committee of the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham. So a lot of transportation-related work. A lot of it's focused around health, the economic benefits of different modes of transportation. I'm really interested in the Board of Education, number one, because as my work experience shows, I like to serve in different capacities, especially around issues that involve children's education and health. I've been doing that since I worked in Florida at the Florida Children's Forum and the Center for Prevention and Early Intervention Policy. So it's really coming from a desire to just offer to serve, and also because my own son is a student at Shades Mountain Elementary. He just started this year. So in the past, my work has been focused a lot more on other school districts, but now this is more of a personal investment, I think, of time and energy connected to my own family.
Thank you. Mr. Lyda, you get to be first.
All right, thank you so much for applying. We appreciate your interest and your willingness to serve our city. I'm going to hone in on one statement you made here because I've been asking about finances, and you say you believe that the most critical issue facing Hoover City Schools are budget and fiscal management. I happen to agree with you. I'd like your assessment. Give us a grade of the current fiscal management of the school system and kind of where you see the future of that.
Well, on a grade of the fiscal management, I guess from my own viewpoint, I would have some questions about the bond issue and the infusion of money. And it seems like that was calculated in the regular operating budget instead of set aside for different things, which I'm not an expert and haven't been involved in a lot of the financial discussions in the past. But it seems like that's part of what's causing the deficit right now and the expectation that that's going to go away in the future, even though it's been budgeted in each year. So the planning along those lines seems to be a little short-sighted in my opinion, and maybe not the best for the long-term sustainability, especially with growth every year. But like I said, I probably need more information to make a better judgment about that. But that's my, I guess, resident opinion of the situation.
Next.
Thank you for coming in, Ms. Peters. I see we have one thing in common. We're alumni of Briarwood Christian School.
Yeah.
And do they still have my most wanted posters up? I don't know.
They're still there.
Are they? Okay. I had a question on one of your answers. You said one of your most important responsibilities of a school board member are to support the superintendent, be engaged in the community, be educated on how to prepare students for college and career readiness. Explain to me what your definition of support is and how far that goes in the event you may not be in alignment with a recommendation from the superintendent. And you have some disagreements and some hesitations about what may or may not be recommended. Explain that to us, please.
Well, I feel like if it's the school board's responsibilities to look at hiring a superintendent, then that process should be fully vetted ahead of the time that they're hired. So hopefully that's a relationship that can be collaborative and really meeting the vision and mission of the district. So I think that as far as supporting the superintendent and also being heavily involved with residents, parents, teachers, teachers, that support would go so far in that, is it aligning with the mission and vision? Is it supporting students in the best way that we could through their entire educational time at Hoover City Schools? So that's what I mean by support, because I feel like there's the responsibility to really be engaged in the hiring process of that person. So
I understand all that, but we have something. So what I'm trying to get to is, if, for instance, he presented a deficit budget for $17 million, and you don't think that's the right thing to do, but you want to support the superintendent, how far are you willing to go with your support and with what you feel that your duties and responsibilities of a board member serving our children in the education system? Where are we at there?
well, I feel like one of the main responsibilities would be to have a balanced budget. So just because the budget is presented, if it's not balanced and it's headed down the road where it's really unsustainable, how can you work, and I don't know if it could be done at the moment when that budget is presented, or does there have to be a commitment that this would be the time to support it with a definite plan to somehow balance that budget within the next year before the next budget comes up? So I can't say that I would blanket support any budget that was presented, but I wouldn't say that I would not support it either if there was the opportunity with a commitment to balance it over the next year. I don't see how continuing to present a budget where there's a deficit would be good for anyone in the long run, especially students.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the million-dollar question is, where's the $1 million a month going to be taken out of or raised? Because the $1 million a month is what the operational crisis is in Hoover. The capital of $5 million may be classified as a deficit because there's no income coming to the capital fund. But it's the $1 million in operations that has to be addressed to balance the budget. And somebody's got to step up to the plate and figure out where the revenue's coming from or where the cuts are going to be made. It's not going to be pretty. Mr. Admiral Natter.
Ms. Peters, what do you see as your vision for the Hoover school system the next 5 years, and how would you get there?
The vision for the Hoover school system in my mind would be a system that is continually drawing talent as far as teachers and leadership there, and drawing residents because it's known as an educational system that people want to invest really their child's life in. So that was something that drew me here. I think that over the last year, that may be a challenge for some people to see at this point, because some of the decisions seem to have been made maybe not in the interest of some students and residents where transportation is an issue. So I think that a school district that seems to be continually supporting students in a holistic way would be my vision. And the way to get there, I think, would be investing in a lot of communication, I hope, with students and parents, a lot of listening from parents and residents in Hoover. I think that's probably, if I was a new school board member, where I would start, with a lot of listening and research at the beginning.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Have you had the opportunity to attend these school board meetings?
Not in Hoover, no.
Do you feel like that with work and with your family that you'd have time to commit?
I do. I think I have the support structure to do that. I am conscious of my time outside of my job because it is very demanding. So I don't try and take on too much outside of that. But of course, that was a I have a very supportive family, an extended family that's nearby. So I believe in it.
Thank you.
Sort of getting back to Mr. Wright's comments about operational expenses. In your conversation
try and engage people up front and have a discussion about it that's ongoing before it actually happens. So hopefully there's more understanding of the necessity, why certain things happen, why things were chosen.
So you're going to involve, and I guess one thing that I'm concerned, and I may be misunderstanding your answer, is try to make sure that it's not emotion driven. It's not like whoever's loudest in the room gets the support. And that you look at the entire budget and you find the areas that you don't want to pull funds from, but in order to balance the budget, this is what you really need to do. That makes sense?
It does make sense, and that's happened to me in the past, and certain presentations to city council are working on different things in other cities. But often it is the loudest person in the room that gets heard. I think it's of value to have a good facilitator in situations like that. It's very valuable for everyone to feel that their voice is heard, but not for someone to monopolize the conversation about a subject and get into an end goal, because you have to get there eventually. So I would say that things would probably get emotional, but there are some ways to maybe work around that and not let that be the topic of conversation other than what you're trying to accomplish. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
In closing, do you have anything we didn't ask you'd like to tell us, or any closing remarks?
I don't think I have any additional remarks right now, so thanks for your time.
We apologize for locking you.
That's okay.
Well, it's raining, I hope.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
I'll
it.
have to.
That'll conclude the formal. I need to see each one of you individually before you leave.
Out of here, I gotta teach in the morning. It's about 10 minutes away from my bedtime to get home.